I'll just turn I've got my timer on so I know where I'm up to. Look, I guess I feel a little imposter syndrome myself because I am merely but a classroom teacher. So I'm going to speak to it from that experience. Like I said, the research stuff's fallen by the wayside, but I'm really passionate about the middle leaders experience or the middle leader's voice in what this out of field teaching experience looks like. So I'm going to talk from an ex-head of department position, and my experience is in mathematics, so that's kind of where a lot of this stuff sits. I guess really from a middle leader's perspective, there are a few things that I feel that go on when I think about out of field teachers I've cared for. And the first one is this idea of what classes are you going to allocate them to make sure that that's a reasonable experience. There's a couple of issues going on there. And that's this idea of making sure that we're managing the school's expectation of what an out of field teacher is going to be able to achieve with the class that they've got. The second thing is thinking about what level of class that you give them. Year 7's a crucial entry year. Year 10, 11 and 12 are crucial on the other end. Although I was finding in what the research that I was doing, a lot of out of field maths teachers were given a year 7 class because they figured that it would be easy and they'd be able to do it quite simply based on, their own mathematical experience. And I think that from a head of department perspective was a wrong way of approaching it, because getting kids in and hooked with mathematics in year 7 on the right path is absolutely crucial. So I think putting them on year 7 is not great. And obviously putting them on 10, 11 and 12 has its own challenges. I tried where I could, and you can't do this in every school, to give them a class that they got a couple of goes at. So if you had a timetable structure, that meant that you could teach a class twice, so 2 year 7 classes or 2 year 8 classes or 2 year 9 classes. That was really ideal, because what that allowed for was the next thing I want to talk about and I'm really passionate about, and that's reflective practice. When you've got a teacher that's teaching the same lesson twice over or 3 times over to 3 different groups, a number of things will happen. The teacher becomes reflective about what works with one group, what didn't work with the next group, so how important differentiation is, but it allows them to go back and have another go at redoing that lesson a second or a third time over. Most school timetable structures don't allow for that, but wherever that's possible, I think teachers should be given the option to do it a second time over, even if it's consecutive years. So, year 7 this year, year 7 the next year. So you've got a double go at actually getting it right, or thinking about what the differences are. In terms of building that reflective practice, I think that it's really important that you, as a head of department, you facilitate a really open growth mindset within the team that you're working with, where there's a celebration of the skills that your out of field teacher brings with them, and that they're able to make connections and not feel there's an insecurity there. I know as a director of professional learning for STEM, I'm now suddenly finding how interconnected all these subjects are between science, technology and maths, and actually celebrating what your out of field teacher can bring and putting that at the forefront with the team that you're working with, to make sure that that person feels valued and that they've got something that they can contribute to the mathematics curriculum, because they're coming with a different set of visions over what they're looking at. So I've talked about allocation of classes and reflective practice. I guess the next big key there is that building that pedagogical content knowledge and how we do that. And my main aim for that was my main MO for that was the mentoring, and looking at staff-based or subject-based PD that I ran on a needs basis within the team that I was working with, and providing an opportunity for those supportive conversations. We use a swivel to record lessons, so my teachers can take a swivel in with them and record their own lesson, and then watch their own lesson back and critique their own lesson. And I'm finding that going in and doing 10-minute snippets of an amazing teacher doing an amazing thing in a classroom and sharing that with our community is kind of sharing some of that pedagogical content knowledge in a non-confrontational, celebratory way, and bringing connections between teachers that normally wouldn't have conversations, but it's opening up the classroom doors of my experts to those that are less, that have less confidence, to actually see how it runs and connect up with an expert in that area. In terms of looking at expert lessons, I found the most effective way to do that with the team that I was leading was we would go and watch an expert with an expert, and that takes time. I found if I took my out of field teachers into an expert's classroom and they watched an expert in practice, they didn't always see what I saw as another mathematics teacher. So sitting with my more inexperienced teachers, and this works with the beginning teachers as well, side by side with an expert, watching an expert undertaking the practice means that you can help unpack what it is that that teacher, the inexperienced or out of field teacher, should be seeing as they're watching that lesson unfold. Sometimes they're not seeing it. You've got to have that conversation, or to have it swivel videoed and then sit and talk through that, what's happening, and deconstruct that lesson as you're watching it happen, not in real time, but after the fact. What else did I write down here I thought would be worth talking about? I guess really that the wanting to provide the feeling of comfort. I know that's a difficult thing to do, and I noticed somebody put up there that that kind of bullying and feeling insecure, that not knowing how to deal with that. And I think a lot of that needs to come from upskilling our leaders in how you run with that. There are some heads of department who don't understand what the nuances and how difficult out of field teaching is and aren't thinking about what those structures are. But there's an impact on our middle leaders as well, because they're then taking the fallout from parents and students who want their expectations managed by the middle management team in the school. So I think if we can get the middle leaders to think more productively about their out of field teachers and to activate some methods for improving that situation for their out of field teachers, I think that's a bit of a win-win, because it's a real stress when you've got out of field teachers on your team, in terms of making sure that their results and the resources that you're providing are of a quality that those teachers are comfortable using, and giving them the time beforehand to be able to have a look at it and feel comfortable. We did a lot of team teaching. Quite often timetables don't allow that flexibility. But I think building that open door policy where inexperienced teachers or out of field teachers can watch an expert teacher work and then feel comfortable with the reverse happening takes a long time to build that culture. But I think those little video snippets that I'm able to send to people broke down the barriers of opening up classroom doors, because I was able to take videos of teachers who would never have put themselves forward. If you said, I want to do a video of somebody teaching a lesson, no, you're not videoing me, I don't want to be videoed. When you go in, and we do that as part of our lesson observation, I would just take a small snippet of that to actually share out, to have a discussion around, and it built a celebration rather than a judgmental process in terms of practice. I think that's probably about it. And